Who are you jealous of?
Do I have to give a proper noun?
I don't know. Yeah.
Do I have to
the follow-up question is, who are you jealous of that you thought of but you didn't say?
I think with culinary arts and comedy, you don't have the same relationship with mistakes that musicians do.
Yeah.
Whereas, playing like an amateur, people say something wrong when I play it right. Like
Right.
Roots guys know I'm mad when I play everything correct.
That's great.
Like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
I'm cool. A headache. Like that sort of thing. So, anyway.
That's great. It's funny because in the SNL documentary that you made, it's like, it was one of the best explanations of the relationship between music and comedy I've ever seen. That it's like the rhythm, the cadence, the timing, all those things are crucial. And people say music and comedy, there's an interrelationship all the time, but you nailed it.
I think I learned that it all came together probably in the first year of, and I never say like my life on Fallon or the Tonight Show or whatever. Like, I consider where I go, like I'm in my senior college year of 30 Rock University.
Right. That's so being in the building, you think was that created the first epiphany about that?
That was the first green light I had.
Wow.
And this all ties in together. Because even with, like with us really connecting, me watching Don't Think Twice, and just the entire relationship with rejection and self-sabotage, like that played a big role in the Sly Lives doc.
Yeah.
Like, but you were the first to show it to me in a way that, and I still believe when we had a conversation about it, you weren't too certain if self-sabotage was a play in it. Okay, so to give everyone context.
Yeah.
When you did my podcast, God,
Yeah.
like 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
This is a slow turnaround.
Yeah.
Like 10
Questlove
years.
Supreme. Yeah.
10 years later.
That's right.
Right. So my theory was that when I saw the film, I told everyone who was like inching 30, whatever, like this is a must watch. Like, if you want to know what the direction of your life is, because you just mess around when you're of college age or whatever, and then I guess you start to think seriously maybe 26, 27.
Yeah.
But once you get to 31, that's almost like when your first midlife crisis comes in, because you don't know if you're not doing exactly what you're on the path to doing. Like, if you're still like hanging out, messing around at 33, 34, and then suddenly you start to panic. So I told everyone to watch that film. And my assessment was, at least for a couple of the characters, that they weren't aware that they were self-sabotaging.
That's right.
Right.
At large.
So that's where we disagreed, because you told me that you felt your characters were fully aware of...
This is where we disagreed about my movie.
Right. Because the thing is that I believe that most people self-sabotage, because we want to control, we want to know what's next. You want to know what the next step is.
Right.
Is this solid ground, or is this, quicksand? And not having the comfort of the know-how of knowing if you're going to drown or not.
Yeah.
Makes people just say, okay, no, this is where I get off. This is where I'm going to stay. This is my
Right. So in other
limitation.
words, they're controlling their own kind of decline because they're afraid that maybe the incline isn't there.
Yeah. I mean, declines are familiar. Letdowns are familiar. Disappointments are familiar.
Yes.
As opposed to success.
That's right.
Like, even success is scary. Like, I can tell you firsthand that I'm probably the first person that would actually actively root against something good happening to him. Like, I went through that period of like literally like, I can't take it anymore. Like, make it stop. Like that sort of thing. We know what this feeling is.
So this was so in your documentary, Sly and the Family Stone documentary, Sly Lives, the person who I think is in some ways the hero, in addition to the director, is Andre 3000, because he says this thing that is so deep, which is, and he says a lot of things that are deep, but he's essentially describing what you're saying, which is like, when you're at the level of success that Sly and the Family Stone was at, you're giving to the world and taking from the world so much that when you stop, when one of those things stops, you actually don't know where to put that energy or where to get it from.
With Andre making that realization in the film, first of all, he was probably the one interview subject that was totally aboard and absolutely down for what I wanted to achieve.
Oh, interesting.
I kind of had to Jedi mind trick people. we had to Jedi mind trick
the life of a documentary filmmaker.
Well,
you have to semi-trick people into making what you want to make.
You can't exactly just come out and say, hey, you know, like how there's similarities between this person I'm doing a doc on and your current life right now, like your tendency to, you know, not show up at all, your tendency to keep people waiting for 12 hours, or your tendency to wait decades between records, or your tendency.
So you interviewed some people like D'Angelo and others who have similar self-defeating tendencies.
Yeah, I joke that there's the exact moment where D'Angelo recognizes he's not there to talk about like harmony structure and and
that's so funny.
Like he takes a drag of a cigarette, and I know that stare, that when he gives me that stare, like I knew this was a trap. I knew this was a trap. But I had to.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was a very slow walk of trust, but there was 19 other artists that flat out said no or said yes, and 7 hours later you're on set like, are you coming or not? And
how many people didn't show up?
We got stood up maybe 3 times.
Oh, that's not bad.
But yeah, there were. I will say that Andre was probably, when I asked him, he was just like elated, like, oh, finally, I have an outlet to let you guys know what I've been going through for the last 25 years.
That's really interesting.
So,
So with Sly, do you know if he's seen it?
Yeah,
he's seen it.
Absolutely.
Do you know if he likes it?
Yeah, he likes it. I know traditionally, especially with documentaries, the subject is not supposed to be the executive producer, or have say in it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird because in some situations, in this specific case, with the music copyright and all those things, the Jackson estate owns the Sly songs.
They do?
So 1984, in 1984, no, it was the smartest business move Michael Jackson ever made.
I know, he bought up a bunch of stuff, right? Bought up a bunch of Beatles stuff?
So ATV Publishing was a publishing house. Weird enough, McCartney told him, like, Jackson's like, okay, so what do you do with your money? Like, how do you grow it and all those things? And McCartney says, publishing. Buy publishing.
That's crazy.
But, you're supposed to buy, like, some songs. Mike's just like, oh, I'll buy the entire house.
Right.
So
I'll buy the Beatles.
Yeah, in
Sly Stone.
83, he purchased ATV Publishing, which is one of the biggest publishing houses. Like, it's Chuck Berry songs, Sly songs, the Beatles songs, Little Richard songs, and just in general, they tell you from the gate that if you're doing any project on one of the artists that we hold copyright on, the first thing we're going to do is go to them to see if if this is something they approve of
Well, that's
or they
nice.
like of or whatever. So, so he had to give a thumbs up in order for the music to be cleared. But we kind of came in at the top, very clear with what our intention was basically to show people kind of what artists go through, but in a way that it didn't feel like the world's tiniest violin. For me, it was important to show it in a way that didn't reek of poor baby, but really just like explain to you what the level of vulnerability that it takes to be that person.
Yeah. Your personal story is not that dissimilar from Sly in the sense that you're both musicians, you're both DJs.
Yes.
I mean, to give, if people haven't seen the documentary, and they should, it's incredible. It's like Sly was a Bay Area DJ.
That's
a radio DJ.
That's the one thing, when people ask me what's the one thing that I learned about this that I didn't know. I knew he was a DJ, but I didn't realize the impact of that of him DJing. First of all, he starts DJing in 1961 in the Bay Area. He's an open format DJ, which is the kind of DJing I do.
Right.
When I go to a gig, I don't know if have you been to a party where I've DJed before?
Yeah.
Okay. So in my mind, my thing is, how am I going to connect Benny Goodman and Kendrick Lamar?
Exactly. And by the way, if people haven't seen this, they should watch your masterclass on DJing.
I totally forgot I had that
thing. It opened my mind to even the art of what DJing is. Like, I didn't understand it before that documentary.
Yeah, movies and television, really, that's the one thing that irks me about how things are depicted. Because when I'm DJing, it's the equivalent of me just coming up to you mid-set to say, excuse me. Hey, could you tell the chicken cross the road joke?
Yeah.
Can you do that one? Can you tell the chicken cross the road joke?
Yeah.
Like, you're like right to get to the punchline and someone interrupts you like, hey, I think I have a suggestion better than you. But they always do that on television. Like, the person goes up to the DJ like, hey, could you play that?
Yeah.
And then they play the record and like the magic happens. Basically, Sly is an open format DJ, which means that here he's going to play the Beatles and Bob Dylan, but he's also going to play like, the Temptations and even like Dyke and the Blazers, Funky Broadway. You know what I mean? Like, and that was sort of unheard of. Like, mixing rock and soul on the same radio station, like that's not supposed to happen. So what you're not supposed to do, he's probably just as a human, contrary to start with, whatever he's not supposed to do, you're doing.
Yeah.
So I believe that, and on top of that, as a personality, if you're familiar with like Robin Williams' character in Good Morning Vietnam, like those morning show zoo DJs, 91, think of how like Robin Williams acts like 12 characters at once.
Yeah.
Like that was Sly. He would make his own commercials up for products that
don't exist.
Yeah, or like, let me do a commercial for Tidy Bowl, like,
right.
And literally he would make his own commercials. So even then, what will happen is those 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds in 1960 will now be the counterculture hippies in 67, 68, 69.
Yeah.
So kind of what as the Bay Area hippie or the counterculture person, like Sly had a major hand in raising them.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that part's even known. And even more than that, like with the bands, like the first producer of the Grateful Dead, Sly Stone. The first producer of Jefferson Airplane, Sly Stone. Like,
yeah.
He also...
I couldn't believe it when I saw that he produced Somebody to Love.
Yes.
I was like, what?
Yeah. So
It's like one of the biggest rock hits of all time.
Yeah. So, you know, he just, I didn't realize how much prep work he did 5 years before he officially came out as Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it would seem rather up his alley.
It was funny because when I did The Old Man in the Pool at Lincoln Center, I had just seen your masterclass on DJing, and I was like, oh my God, it would be such a dream if Questlove would be open to doing a pre-show set. And I asked you, and you were so generous, and you did it. What was amazing about the experience was seeing how many of the songs, because you sent it as like a 45-minute file, how many...
Oh, you thought I was just going to feed you songs on your Spotify?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking even that I could look up the songs. A lot of the songs, they don't even exist on Apple Music or Spotify. Yeah. So I'm like, what is your catalog? Where is your catalog? When you're making that, I mean, it was like, in other words, it was things as different as something from Motown and then The Cure. And then you would find how to match those two things. And then it would be a hip hop track and it would be a classical track. It would be a jazz track. And where do those exist when you make those mixes?
So right about now, so I'm in the third phase of record collecting. So I've been binge shopping with my dad. The kind of connecting thing that I have with my father, because he too was a musician. That was a nightclub artist that required songs to learn for whatever environment that he's in.
Yeah.
We got to learn Celebration by Kool and the Gang. So since...
For real? Like, that was his job?
Well, yeah. So my dad was an oldies doo-wop singer in the 50s on Chess Records, like back in the 50s.
Wow.
By the time I was born, the first wave of nostalgia culture kicks in. But also, my parents did not believe in babysitting.
Okay.
So you had to be on the job always. So literally, and it was normal.
So you were thrust into like professional music when you were a kid.
Yeah. So it was, and I would ask them all the time, like, was it normal for a 5-year-old to be in a nightclub? Or when you hear like Brooke Shields tell stories of like, yeah, I was at Studio 54 when I was 12 and 13. Scandal culture or outrage culture didn't really kick it until like the late 80s.
Yeah.
You know, with like doing the Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, like the, you know, the clutching of the pearls outrage, but no one cared. So yeah, I was a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, either playing percussion on stage with my family. By the time I was 11, I could run the lights.
Unbelievable.
My sister and I would run the soundboard and the lights as, you know, as kids. So the whole point is that my dad sort of stayed in that circuit for maybe like 3 to 4 years. Between like 72 to 76 maybe.
Yeah.
And then he realized that was going to be a very short window, because as time moves on, by the late 70s, early 80s, then suddenly the early 60s Motown, the Big Chill, Beatles mania, you know, starts to kick in.
Yeah.
So as a result, my dad's like, okay, I got to get off the oldie circuit and get in the nightclub circuit. Now, now if you want to go out for a night of dancing, you'll ask, oh, who's DJing? And you go to a club and see them DJ.
Yeah.
But in the mid 70s to, mid 80s, bands were still pretty much part of nightclub culture.
Yeah.
So my dad started a nightclub act, and I'll say twice a month we would go binge shopping. Where literally we just go to the wall. I'll take that, be like $400. We'll take home boxes of records.
Yeah.
And then my dad's band would rummage through the box of 45s and albums, whatever the hit was. Okay, The Hustle.
Oh my gosh.
Casey and the Sunshine Band will take that. And whatever wasn't good, I'd
so you just get everything else.
Yeah, so I'm probably the first music expert that gravitated towards the flop song.
What's the flop song?
I always say this. So Van McCoy had a very big hit in the 70s with The Hustle, but then his follow-up song, Changed with the Times, was a dud. So, of course, the band we'll take The Hustle 45 and learn this, and yeah, man, you could take the trash. So
right.
I would whatever the flop was in that artist's catalog,
Yeah.
that will wind up in my record collection because the band didn't want it.
Yeah.
And so I just when you're between 1 and 16, you're not cynical, you're not discerning. You own a record.
Yeah, sure.
And so it was a long time before I realized that a lot of my favorite songs growing up were flops.
Yeah.
And songs that people didn't like. So
But songs that people didn't like.
But that kind of raised me now where, like, I think it's Captain Obvious. Like, if I play a hit, it's because I know, okay, this check's pretty big, so I better play some songs that people
Right. They're paying you well.
Like,
you should throw in Hey Ya.
Yeah, something that people know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm the guy that's always trying to trick you or figure out ways to trick you into a song that you didn't know was a danceable song.
Well, the beginning of the first 6 minute sequence in the SNL documentary is a DJ exercise, right?
It is.
Just to talk people through it in like layperson's terms, the first 6 minutes it's on Peacock. It's streaming on Peacock.
Yeah.
The first 6 minutes is almost like a short film unto itself.
On its own, right?
Because it's basically a DJing of some of the best musical performances in the history of SNL, and what as a lay
collaborate together.
Yeah,
and sing
exactly. And as a lay person, I'm just going, oh my god, this song is related to that song.
So okay, so what's behind us? And can your viewers see your
the board,
your board over here?
Yeah, they can sort of. I mean, they can't see the words, but like, yeah,
right. But yeah, this is literally. I'll say it took 11 months to make that montage.
Oh my gosh!
Shout out to John McDonald, also like a master editor. It helps when your editor is also a musician.
Yeah.
So
it's like cards on a board. This song.
Cards on the board, like CSI style.
Yes.
Like whenever I hear a song, the first thing I say to myself is, what key is this in? How many BPMs?
Okay.
It's like an obsession. I'll pull out my iPhone, go my BPM
how many beats per minute
counter. Right. So I'm like, okay, well, this song's 103 BPMs and it's in E minor. And if there's a bridge to it, like, great example. Figuring out, and this is John McDonald's, I can't take credit for that. Him knowing that the chorus of Walk This Way, which is in C, which is different. The actual Walk This Way song's in E.
Yeah.
But when they go to Walk This Way, Talk This, that's in C minor, and somehow he figures out the 2 seconds that will connect Walk This Way to Cher's I Found Someone.
Yeah.
And she just happens to say the words, when you walked away. So that's even a double, like, as a key, they're both married to each other. But as a subject,
lyrically they fit.
Lyrically it even fits. And so, I mean, that's what took 11 months because we just wanted.
That sequence is as good as any 6 minutes of anything I've ever seen.
And then no one sees Hanson coming at all.
Oh, so Hanson's great.
Right.
And then honestly, you're watching it going, Hanson's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, you picked the right 8 seconds to be like, I actually did that. Like, well,
it's a perfect example of the DJ song where you go, oh, Bop is pretty good.
Well, yeah, as a DJ, I listen to songs as a DJ. It's been a long time since I listened to music for pleasure.
Oh,
which is also a hard thing to do. Like, what happens when the thing that gave you pleasure becomes your job?
Oh, man.
And then you become numb to, like, let me just put this on because I used to like this when I was a kid. So it's hard to do that. But yeah, for me, I wanted to just. I mean, SNL is only good as it's cold open, and you need a powerful cold open before you tell a story.
That's right.
I figure that's the best way to tell a cold open.
With Summer of Soul, this is like a tiny bit of trivia. You won the Oscar, I think, after the slap.
My category was the slap.
After Will Smith slaps Chris, that was my the Academy Award.
But the
goes
thing is,
to Questlove.
The thing is that when people were first asking me my reaction to it, I don't think they believed me when I was like, I wasn't there. Like, if you're up for anything in that level of importance, you're not in your right mind whatsoever.
Oh, right. What does it feel like? What was your headspace?
Okay, so for starters, it's a little weird when
Right.
you're campaigning for a year, so you're seeing the same faces of the other doc people that you're up against.
That's right.
At 40 other, there's the Independent Spirit Awards, and there's the
Right. It's the same group of people at all the award shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets, and we had a big year that year, so already I'm feeling like I'm the Grinch that stole awards.
Yeah.
So each one,
You'd won a lot of awards at that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm already just in a make it stop thing. I think, like, at one point I told Jared, my manager, like, he asked the Disney people to pull us out of, like, can we pull out of these things because I think it's too much. Like, I don't want people to not like us, because
Yeah. It's the Sly in you talking.
yeah, like, I wanted it to stop.
Self-Saboteur.
Right. And so
Please don't let me win the Oscar.
there was about maybe, I'll say, the first half hour, just sitting there and all the anxiety of it all. And this is like the last part of the journey. Like, it started with the Sundance
Sure.
a year before.
Wow.
And that entire year of just going through that process, and you're just sitting there and you're, realizing that you're up against the person who's, your very first documentary you ever watched on TV is like 3 rows up from you, and, are you in the same level as him? Da 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 da. And then you're thinking about all your relationships and who's going to like you, who's going to be your friend. Will your band like you after this? Will your family like you after this? I'm thinking about, will Thanksgiving be normal?
Oh my gosh.
Because at that time, it's in, it could happen to you too. Like, oh, Mr. Hollywood, and then I'm sure you have that one person that doesn't know how to act now that you're in this phase of your life.
Yeah.
And so I think in my mind, I was just sitting there like frozen, totally channeling out what was happening, because we're in the back row. And it's never going to be the same, never going to be the same, never going to be. I was like, wait, are they allowed to curse on TV, Mom? When I heard the word fucking,
Oh my God.
then I stopped and was like, I looked at my mom like, wait, they're allowed to curse on television?
Oh my God.
That's weird. And then I just went back to, oh God, it's all going to be different. It's all going to be different. Summer Soul, it's all going to be different. And I stood up, totally not registering what really happened. Because even then, I just thought, man, that was a poorly executed sketch.
Right. That's what I thought.
I thought it was a bit.
I thought it was a bit.
Right. But when you're walking and you're walking slow, you're already walking with this whole, did I deserve this? Did I not deserve this? Is everyone happy for me? And the way that people are clapping was more like send for help, because they're
Right. They're experiencing the drama of the slap that just happened that
Right.
you barely even clocked.
exactly. And there was one point when
That's
I looked at the
crazy.
Williams sister. Like, I don't know if my mind, I was expecting like the ticker tape, he's a jolly good fellow thing, like where people stand up and like that, like the heroes walk.
Yeah.
But definitely people were like clapping like this, which only to me was registering like
Like it's about you.
This is my worst nightmare. No one's happy for me.
Yeah, all of your anxiety of, are people going to like me anymore? And then people are confusedly clapping about something that had nothing to do with you, and you don't even fully clock what just happened.
Yeah, I didn't clock what happened. And then I get to the front, and there was kind of a moment where I knew my back was to the audience, to the cameras. And I knew I had about a good 3 seconds to ask him. I said, was that a sketch? Was that real?
To Chris.
He's like, fuck no.
Oh my God.
And that moment,
Oh my gosh.
I turned around and realized,
Oh my gosh.
oh God, that was real. And it was never, my thing was never about like your moment got taken away from you. Or that was your glory moment, you know, because actually, at the time, my ex told me, she said, congratulations, you got exactly what you wanted. So I'm thinking in terms of like, oh, you mean the Oscars? He says, no. He's like, this whole process, watching you this entire year of you scared of your own shadow, like you told the universe, yes, I would like to win it, but I would want to win it in the most quietest way possible.
On your own terms.
So this is how I learned the term, you can manifest something, you can manifuck something. So
yeah.
She's like, you got your manifuck wish. You wanted to win this Oscar in the quietest way possible where nobody's going to judge you or be angry with you. And you asked the universe to make it happen, and that's exactly what happened.
That's really interesting because it's like my experience of writing Don't Think Twice, a lot of it was it actually cured me of jealousy, because what I realized about jealousy is if you want something that someone else has, you can't just one for one have what they have and be you at the same time.
See, I knew that you would eventually let out and share. So now I really got to ask you. I was waiting for you to open the door because I still watch it obsessively. Like, so did at one point you try to fit into the 30 Rock ecosystem either as a writer or?
To some degree, yeah.
How hard is it to get in that system?
Oh,
I feel like a Nepo baby that was just ushered in because.
No, I wasn't one for one with SNL. Like I wasn't even close to SNL. I didn't even audition. So the whole acting out of people auditioning, but the part that I relate to is that when I was coming up, I moved to New York in 2000, and I'd been working the door at the DC Improv, and all of a sudden, the people who were getting heat all around me I was like, wait, but I'm as funny as these people. And then people are blowing up, people are getting SNL, people are getting The Daily Show, all this shit. And it's like, and it's a weird experience to feel that.
So when you first start, your first job is, so any person working the door,
yeah,
or any person like that's the entry, that's the intern level of getting into that system?
In some ways, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The comedy club system, I was working the door for like 3 years at the DC Improv. First person I ever opened for actually was Chappelle.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he was 24. I was 19. He was headlining comedy clubs nationwide when he was 24 years old.
And is that unusual?
Yeah,
to be that
almost unheard of.
Really? So you have to be almost like an experienced.
Yeah. It was a bizarre. It was when Half Baked was just about to come out.
Funniest script I've ever read in life. Side note, so all the music for season 2 of Chappelle, that's when they hired me. Doing Chappelle is what got me the Tonight Show. But I was the musical director of season 2 and very little of season 3 that happened. And I got to tell you, I had that Rick James sketch a good 5 months before it came out.
Oh, you had seen it.
Dude, do you know how crazy my life was? Where I would go to parties.
Yeah.
And have that script in my bag.
Oh my God.
And I would perform it for people as a one-man show.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
I would say the highlight of my social celebrity standing.
Yeah.
Like, Ahmir, he's so funny. Like, literally.
Ahmir's so funny.
Yo, I knew that whatever those guys were going to shoot wasn't going to be half as funny.
Yes.
As what I was doing at parties every night. And I perfected it. I would add my own things to it, like memorized it. Like, yeah, I worked at the Chappelle show. We're doing this thing about, Rick James, like, and his arguments with Charlie Murphy. And oh wait, I think I have it right here. And then I started reading it.
Can you imagine? This is a slow round and actually fitting from what we were talking about. Who are you jealous of?
Do I have to give a proper noun?
I don't know. Yeah.
Do I have to?
The follow-up question is, who are you jealous of that you thought of but you didn't say?
I'll tell you that the kind of boohoo, woe is me positioning that I took with the Roots, when it came time to like, is this going to be our turn? Is this going to be our moment?
Yeah.
Because the thing was, we were critically acclaimed, but critically acclaimed doesn't necessarily mean that we're hit makers.
Right.
And
you're beloved.
Yeah, and kind of in the rap game, you have to be a hit maker.
Right.
Like, so we totally, I will say that, I'm proud to say that a lot of our surviving was just being prestige artists. Like, but it was almost to the point that people thought we wanted to be prestige artists, where they would just be like, well, you guys don't care about like hit singles and going platinum and everything. And inside my voice, I'm like, motherfucker, I do care about that shit.
That's so good.
So, I will generally say that, in 96, when the Fugees are having their moment.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. I might have sat in a bathtub, like, fully clothed, like, looking at their Rolling Stone cover with my darts, like, and then, I mean, it happens with every cycle. Like, there'll be moments where and I absolutely love the Fugees. Like, we had some of the best times touring and all those things.
Yeah.
But, at the point when they're, like, selling 12 million and, congrats, guys, you just broke 300,000. And it was just like, we're never going to make it. So there are moments with that. And then, like, in 98, when our album came out, like, okay, it's about us. And then the Outkast is like, nope, hang on.
Oh my
Our
God.
turn now.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, I always felt like, back then I felt like we were Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Like, not allowed to play in reindeer games.
I love that.
But I will also tell you, some 32 years and 17 albums later, looking in the rearview mirror of what's happened to everyone, this was absolutely, positively the best storybook ending ever. Like, I'll ask you, I don't know what the equivalent of asking you, would you rather your second album sell 12 million units and you win a whole bunch of awards, and then you just have the craziest crash and burn of all time? Or would you rather tortoise and hare your way? Even when you pass the finish line, you don't realize that you've made it.
I thought I wanted the first one, and I know now I wanted the second one, now that I've had the second one. Because when I was in my 20s, I was like, I want to be a star.
Famous and right.
Yeah. And then now I'm 46, I'm just like, oh, this is great. I go to every city, people show up, they want to see what I'm doing. They don't want to see me because I'm known from something that isn't me. They like what I'm doing, and it's like, oh my God, that's the greatest gift. It's the people who listen to this podcast. It's the greatest gift you could possibly imagine in exchange for giving yourself to your work.
I sat there in the audience. I saw your show, The Beacon, and The Beacon is that's a big deal. Like, I remember playing that when I was, my dad played. I think I played The Beacon when I was 12 with my dad. So I know,
gosh.
That's, well, dude, I was his band leader when he.
No, it's a big deal. I did it when I was 12.
Well, I don't count anything.
When I was 13, I did Madison Square Garden.
I don't count anything.
I did Yankee Stadium when I was 15. The Beacon's a big deal.
Anything with my dad, look, I just happen to be there. But,
it's a historic venue.
it is. And I was like, wow. So I remember, following it. And I know that, it's hard to in hindsight, yes, the tortoise and the hare journey.
Yeah. So you're happy with that version of it.
I'm happy with it, but I also, you know what I am? I'm the person. Okay, speaking of Will Smith, I'm the person that once asked Will Smith, like, the story of how he jumps from the Fresh Prince to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, going from the Fresh Prince to Will Smith, was a move in which he didn't consult anybody.
Oh, really?
Right. So the quickest story is that he, they had this incredible success with their second album. He's the DJ, I'm the rapper. They sell millions of units. They're really just benefiting the waterfall of Yo MTV Raps.
Right.
Anything on Yo MTV Raps between 88 and 90 is just, it's now reaching middle America and everything.
Yeah, sure.
So they benefited from that. So when their next album comes out, In This Corner, which I actually loved better, it flopped. But they still, did the rounds of promotion and all those things, and they did the Arsenio Hall show.
Yeah.
And did a really compelling performance of I Think I Can Beat Mike Tyson. That was the first single from that thing. And Quincy Jones happens to watch it, and Quincy Jones rings up super manager Benny Medina, who is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Okay.
Medina tells Jones's life story about being like a Barry Gordy of Motown's assistant, and how he came up in Hollywood, and how his Benny Medina, who's J-Lo's manager, is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So that's about his life.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So Will Smith, not knowing what he's getting called to come to Quincy's house for, he thinks he's going to Quincy Jones's birthday. And it's Quincy Jones's birthday.
This is a crazy story.
It's Quincy's birthday. And, a couple bottles later and everything, and everybody's like, hey, Philly, come over here. Just calling him Philly, not even like Will. He says, I saw what you did on Arsenio, and then da-da-da-da-da-da. Do you know that man is over there? And he's like, his name is Brandon Tartikoff. We're going to do something, just real quick. And he pulls out a script. And then ding, 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 ding. And he makes Will Smith audition in front of, like, Oprah, Spielberg. Like, this
At the party?
At the party.
No.
And
what are you talking about?
And Will's like, well, wait, I need like 2 weeks in.
What a weird birthday party.
And literally Quincy Jones is like, the three men that can greenlight this deal right now are in this room. Just read the script. Oprah, I think she read for the role of Aunt Viv.
Oh my God.
Like, literally, people are like, his co-stars are like established actors and whatnot. And so he does it, and then he looks at everyone and is like, so what do you think? What do you think? It's like, yeah, let's do it. He's like, all right. Wait, Philly, you have a lawyer yet? He's like, well, no. And he calls it. Here's like Bob Newhart style. He's like, yeah, would you really? Can you come by? Well, how far apart are they? Well, it's triplets. Yeah, man, I've heard that situation. It's not going to happen until another 2 hours. Yeah, just come by real quick. And so,
how far apart are they?
He comes. He literally, the lawyer leaves the hospital where his wife is about to give birth, and introduces him to his new client, still his lawyer to this day, and says, "Philly, meet you the new lawyer." And they drew up a contract. And so I was like, wait a minute. So you flew there thinking that you're going to a birthday party. How are you explaining to Jeff and your manager and everyone else what you just did?
Yeah.
And for me, there have been plenty of times where I've had that moment and kind of squashed it or said no.
Interesting.
All in the name of, because again, I think the human experience is we'd rather be liked than shine.
Sure.
And so yes, I will say that I believe the tortoise and the hare journey is the best journey.
Yeah.
But part of me does wonder, what if you did take that audition?
Yeah.
What if you did that?
Yeah.
What if I didn't want to do Summer Soul. Like,
interesting.
It took 7 months for them to finally talk me into doing that. I didn't want to do it.
Wow.
yeah, why would I want to do that? I can't do that. I can't do that. And then you start talking yourself into, if you say it, it happens.
So in that way, you're like the Gillian Jacobs character in the movie.
That's why I obsessively watch that movie, Mike Birbiglia. Yes, exactly.
But to the point of you being like the Gillian character, which is someone who's true to yourself and authentic and uncompromising to a degree. I guess my question is,
you still say that. I still disagree. But go ahead.
Okay, but my question is, and because a lot of creatives listen to this show, they had to convince you to do Summer of Soul, and it ended up being this huge triumph. How did you get from not wanting to do it to being like, no, I'm going to go all in on this? What is that journey? Because that's, I think, something people struggle with all the time.
I stopped kicking and screaming. I'll say that around like 2018, 2019 is when I started realizing, well, one thing, watching people get in their own way, watching people self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. There's a moment where I realized, wait, is that me too? Mm. It's easy to do this.
Yes.
Point fingers and, see, they're always messing up. They're always messing up. And I didn't realize that for myself. And, kind of I realized that I made a life being a second banana, hiding behind a DJ rig, hiding behind a drum set, hiding behind Tariq, hiding behind Jimmy.
Yeah.
Mammoth text and post on Instagram, writing books.
Yes.
With the exception,
I love those posts.
With the exception of me teaching at NYU. The first time we have a friend, Seth Herzog.
Yeah.
And when I accepted teaching at NYU, he got in my head like 3 weeks before, like, man, so you're about to be a professor at NYU, huh? I was like, yeah, He's like, so what are you going to do if like someone pulls out their phone or something? And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're dealing with kids. Like, do you know how to handle, someone that talks too much, da-da-da-da? And that's things I didn't think of.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought, like, I'm going to go in and teach. And
the day-to-day of it.
All 30 of them will be receptive and open, and no one's going to be disruptive or ask a bunch of questions or be a problem. And he got in my head about that, and I realized, oh, God, this is the first job I ever had in which I don't have a shield to do the dirty work for me.
Yeah.
Like, Tariq has to face the audience and talk to them. Jimmy has to face the audience every night. So I realized there's a level of leadership vulnerability that I've been avoiding by hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
And so, I had to make a decision probably late 2017, early 2018, where it wasn't serving me to hide in plain sight. And on top of that, where I think I wanted to go in life, I'm going to have to drop something in order to get it.
Yeah.
And so I had to stop being the reluctant, person, the person too cool for school.
Yeah.
Says no first before, I ain't doing that. That's dumb.
Right.
And I had to examine, like, why do you think that's dumb? Because you think the guys are going to make fun of you because you went to da-da-da-da-da, and, so I had to let that go. But it's an everyday battle almost. Like, it's an everyday battle, like just waking up every day. And, I do a morning routine where the second I get up, I spend 20 minutes literally like my version of Eminem's opening scene in 8 Mile, where you just gotta like look in the mirror and talk to yourself and all that shit. So yeah, I do it.
What's the best piece of advice someone's given you that you used?
Whew. If a person asks me, like, or is wondering, because that's the thing, it's like, wait, what are you still doing here? I get that a lot. Because I don't have the same numbers on the board as established people, especially in my field of hip hop. Mm-hmm. But I've spent 20 years of somehow getting that, oh, surprised you're here. Like, wait, you're here too?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get in? And I love that whole thing. I show up.
Yeah.
Which I know that doesn't sound like sage advice or whatever, but if you look at the amount of people, like a lot of things I just show up for is because someone else didn't show up for it. And I know I'm the fifth person or the sixth person.
Gosh.
But you just have to show up.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I don't think it's talent or... I think I do that as a psychological insurance plan.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well...
Because it's so easy to not show up. It's so much easier to not show up.
But I tell people from the mountaintops, like, I know I give the impression that it's like, oh, it's supposed to be about this immense of musical intelligence, or, well, he has so many records and he studies music and da-da, he knows all these obscure records and da-da-da-da-da. None of that helps. Like, none of that helps, especially what I'm doing now. Like, there was no training for what I'm doing. I'm literally learning every day the art of storytelling and putting, even though I have the experience of making records, it's making movies is an entire, telling stories is a entirely different medium. And so you just have to show up.
All right, so the final thing we do is working it out for a cause. Is there a nonprofit that you like to support? And we will contribute to them and then link to them in the show notes.
I appreciate this. There is a group of kids. They are students at the Food and Finance Business School, which is like the weirdest title ever for what it really is. This high school is the culinary version of the LaGuardia School. Think of everything that you know about a fame school, but instead, in addition to their basic classes, they learn how to bake, how to make sushi, how to do irrigation systems, how to work with plant food and indoor farming.
Wow.
How to... And it's a passion of theirs. When it first opened, it was more like, well, you know, these students are the lowest testing score of all of Manhattan, so let's at least do home economics to the school. Maybe they could be a maid in a hotel or work at a McDonald's.
Right.
But the opposite happened. And now a lot of our students are kind of... discovering their culinary passion, and they attend the Food and Finance Business School, which is essentially the food version of the fame school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So we're going to contribute to them. We'll link to the show notes, encourage people to contribute as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Ahmir, it's been an honor.
Thank you for having me, man.
You're wildly inspirational. I'm going to go work on writing my third movie right now, because everything you say fills me up with inspiration. So I feel lucky to know you.
Well, I'm a fan of the show, and I'm glad to be on. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, pal.